All right. Good evening, everyone. We are back on this Tuesday. Tuesday, though it feels like Monday. Tuesday evening here on a Flawed Man of God's channel. I am your host, the Flawed Man of God, Stuart Davis. I am a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a biblical scholar. I haven't been to seminary. Not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause, just trying to talk to you about God, talk to you about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about the Bible, talk about Christianity in general, talk about a wide variety of topics, issues, and current events, and give you my perspective on them, one that I think is reflective of your average Christian guy. Been a Christian all my life, 40 years, non denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word every day, trying to do it better, trying to do it better each and every day. Sometimes I'll get it right. Many times I'll get it wrong. But either way, you're going to see me here most nights, many nights as I can make it, just trying to spread the word, trying to give you any type of perspective. And so, if you are somebody who is interested in learning more about Christianity, if you are searching for answers and maybe there is a voice in the back of your mind wondering if there's more to this life than just your existence here on earth, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, and hopefully you can get something out of this. Hopefully that you can get some sort of influence, some sort of direction, maybe something that might springboard you into a relationship with God. And that's very much the crux of why I started this channel to begin with. I want to be able to be there for folks who might be out there searching and looking for Christianity with more worry that they'll get a biased perspective or somebody with a something that might skew the truth just to get them to join because it's financially beneficial to them, or will grant them some measure of influence over them. Something that is oftentimes the worry with churches and pastors. We do see folks out there with prosperity gospel and other things that really peddle the wrong, a brand that is Christian in name only, not in spirit, not in practice. That's not what you're going to get here. It's like I said, not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. But I do want to see you in a church. I would like to see you settled in with a good relationship with God. If you are already a Christian and you just enjoy Christian topics and conversations, welcome as well. Glad to have you here, regardless of where you sit on the fence or what side of the fence you sit on. Like to hear your perspective. Like to hear from you, and let me know what's going through your mind. We've got a great chat. It's a little quiet. We got Fig in here. Long time no see, sir. Got a great chat with a group of folks who come in and night out and contribute greatly to the content of this show. And they make it better. They make it better. But I would love to have you in there as well. So tell me what you think I've got right, what I've got wrong. Let me know with what we're talking about, whether it's scripture like we're doing tonight or some other topic hits you a specific way. Do you have any insights, any type of life experience that you can pull from to kind of give us what impressions you're having? Would love to hear from you. And we're a small community. We're a small community here. So if you do put something on there, you don't have to super chat it to get noticed. If you put it in the chat, I'll likely read and respond to it. So with that said, welcome everybody. I'm not wearing my customary hat, my customary flawed man hat. It is up there. Tonight I've got one of my many Kenworth hats on in celebration. And I don't think he's viewing yet. Maybe he's out partying. But we had a member of the chat group here pass his CDL. He passed his CDL with something that he has been working on, studying on, practicing on, and praying on for several weeks now. And he did pass it last week at the very end, and we are celebrating for him. This is something that is great for his career, something that he has been working hard on, obviously, and something that we would love to see just be the beginning of a comfortable place for him in life. So, Emmanuel Osorio, when you get this, just know that's the reason I'm wearing a trucker hat for you today, buddy. Red, white, and blue. We're red, white, and blue tonight. I'm wearing one of my softball jerseys tonight. I had softball last night. Did not have a good game. Did not have a good game, folks. It was wasn't my best showing. I struck out. Struck out is awful. Striking out in slow pitch softball is perhaps one of the most embarrassing things a man can do. And I've never done it fully healthy in the 8 years I've been playing. I struck out one time a couple of years ago, a couple of seasons ago. I had taken a ball, had struck me on my thumb, and had cracked the thumbnail open. And I couldn't grip the bat very well. And so I was swinging a little weird, and I struck out then. And that was the only time it had ever happened. And then last night it was just awful. But it was a buddy who was doing it to me. So it's, at least we had a lot of laughs. That's like I said, I love the league that we play with, not just the team that I play with. I try to set them I and the other players who have been with me and been on this team for years understand, the lay of the land. We are a team that's there for fellowship, laughs, and make fun of each other. First and foremost, make fun of each other, because we're not professional ball players. We're not semi-professional ball players. Most of us are preoccupied with family and other things, and every Monday we get together to hang out. So it's always it's always a great thing. But it's not just us, it's the teams we play against. And we played against a church last night that we've been playing against for several seasons. Very talented group of guys, but fun to play with. But man, it's like sometimes, and we've beaten them before. We beat them last year. But it feels like a lot of times that if you're not on your best game, it's just like being a kid and playing your dad in Mario Kart. He's not going to give you an inch just because you're struggling. But he's also not, but then also don't tease you about it. We have a lot of laughs. The pitcher on there is a good chap, and we always pick on each other when we play. Always good to see him, and so yeah. So we lost both games. And there he is. There's Emmanuel. I was just finished talking about you, Emmanuel. There we go. Hello, everyone. It's good to see everyone here. Now that I passed my CDL exam, I've got to wait till Monday to pick it up because they were asking for one documentation, then asked for another. Emmanuel, that's why I'm wearing the Kenworth hat. Doing in honor of you, buddy. Doing in honor of you. Hope you get yourself a nice brand new T680. Get yourself a nice brand new T680. They are that's a swank tractor. Cascadias aren't bad either. And there's much less difference between the Cascadia and the T680 than there is between the M2 and the T480s or T380s. 480s too, depending on what size you're pulling. But they're all nice in the truck. And the brand new redesigned T680s, it's like being inside a very large pickup truck. Just the way they've designed the interior. So nice. So nice. The real question, Emmanuel, is did you pass on a standard transmission or did you take the test with an automatic transmission? And I realize I say this, folks, because Emmanuel knows the score here. But if you get your CDL on an automatic, you are actually not licensed to drive a truck with a standard transmission. Standard transmissions in good man, Emmanuel. I'm gonna leave this up here for a while. Standard transmissions in the trucking industry and in automotive industry in general are a dying breed. But really, really for the trucking industry, just the automatics are they're getting to be so smart. They're very efficient, and it's easier to find drivers for. But the flexibility of being able to drive the older trucks may help. Of course, it might be one of those double-edged swords, Emmanuel. It'll be like, oh, you can drive a stick? Here, let's give you the crappy old truck to drive because nobody else is able to drive it. But yeah, Emmanuel, great job. Great job. We were all rooting for you, and we're glad to see that this is something that came through for you. So Dresden's also here. Alias is here. Porcupine is here. We got the crew coming in late. I was late coming in here too, guys. It wasn't just y'all. It was me too. Hashtag me too. But yeah, Emmanuel, like I said, big congratulations your way. And I know that you're doing great. We are a dying breed, but we won't go quietly into the night. Of course, I know I'm trying to get ahead of the curve and open my own company soon. Dude, owner operators, my biggest thing for you, and you probably already will, is save your money up. Save your money. Start putting it away until you're able to become an owner operator. Just get better at your craft. Look for the right truck. Take your time. Don't rush into that because it's kind of sometimes it's a bit of a crapshoot with getting your own first truck. Because if you're not buying one brand new with a warranty, and you get the wrong repair coming in, especially with these new trucks with the DEF systems. And don't let DOT catch you with with your aftermarket deleted or your after treatment deleted. You go down for a knock sensor. You go down because your SCR, your DEF doser's plugged. These are things that will easily get to $1,000, $1,500 repaired. Your DPF needs to be cleaned. It's awful. It's awful. It can get real expensive real quick. And I've seen more than one owner operator just fall apart when you present them with when they're presented with an estimate for repair, and it's $2,000, $2,500. I don't have that. My truck's broken down. I can't make the delivery. I can't make the money that I need. And that's the other thing. When you become an owner operator, put as much in your maintenance escrow as possible. Front load that maintenance purse as quickly as you can, as much as you can. But there you go. Oh, there we go. Oh, you got experience. Some people I know from church are angry with me because I said 18-year-olds are always there, but I need to put my axe to the grindstone. Why are they angry with you because you said 18-year-olds are always there? I said my mom has been an owner op for about 15 years, so I know. So I'm going to be working for her for a little bit, but I'm willing to learn. Oh yeah, okay. So you already know the score. You know the score real well, and I feel like you've mentioned that before. So sorry I didn't recall that, but um, if you put if the truck's in good shape, stays in good shape, but you keep it in good shape, keep good maintenance on it, and you put the hustle in, you're making money as an owner op. You buy another truck, hire a driver, then keep things on them, keep tabs on them, make money, buy another truck, and I think there's a sweet spot where you can go and just be a driver and owner operator with your own little gang, I guess, of drivers, and you're making really good money, and to the point where you need to go, okay, I'm either going to stay like this or I'm going to become a truck driver. Um, or I'm going to become a trucking company. And then you got to sit back, and then it becomes a whole other shebang. So I said Dresden was here. I'm pretty sure I said Dresden was here. Hi, Dresden. If I didn't already say so. Oh, because I can get. Oh, because I can get an 18-year-old anytime, but building a company, knowing the work is a time investment. Oh, you're talking about women. Oh, okay. Well, you're still relatively young too, so it's one of those things where right. You need to kind of build up, your thing, right? You've got your value. You've carved out your place in life, and then if you meet a gal along the way, readily willing to send it to you. But good to know you're paying attention, Dresden. Porcupine said, "I'm saving a bit each paycheck for emergency bus repair fund." Yeah, especially older truck, right? Older bus. Yeah, you definitely need it. You definitely need it. So here we go. I want at least 10 trucks because I got a second chance to life, but I want to help other men who would be stuck in similar situations. Yeah, yeah. It's there's a lot of folks out there. I mean, it's just trucking companies, truckers are weird. It's a weird breed. There's a lot of and maybe it's just like the rest of life. My experience with drivers. Um, there's some out there who are all about the hustle, all about making the deliveries, all about being the profession of being a driver, right? They do their pre-trips. They're on top of their maintenance. The truck is they view the truck as their real livelihood, not as just a horse to beat to death, but it's part of their business. It's something that they view it as the investment that it is, and they treat it with care and with respect and understanding, but also with the business mind to it. You've got other folks they're just there to collect a paycheck. They did it because maybe they didn't have anything else to do. Steering wheel holder. They drive down the road, and these are the ones that really scare me. There's other folks who are just there are other drivers who are just socially awkward. They're out on the road a lot, and they don't know how to interact with people just because they don't spend any time with them. So they're awkward in different ways. Sometimes it's nice awkward, sometimes it's weird awkward, and sometimes it's um, angry awkward. But there's usually you can what I usually say, tell my wife is stay away from tractor trailers on the road. And the older the equipment looks, especially on the trailer, older the equipment works, the more distance I want you to give it. Because there's a lot of trucking companies and there's a lot of truckers out there that don't care about the maintenance, don't do their pre-trips, and bad stuff happens as a result. Manuel says, I'm an idealist at the end of the day, but damn, I'm going to try. Good. Stick to your principles and don't force things to happen. You're going to do great, Manuel. You got a great attitude. You got to get a lot of drive. So, again, there we go. What else? It's like 40K. The truckers are the tech priests, praying to it or maintaining it. Glory to the Omnissiah, and I'm one of those weirdos. I'm trying my best to interact with humans normally. You're doing fine, Emmanuel. Truckers sometimes are the tech priests. Sometimes they seem like servitors. Like I said, it depends on what trucker you run into. Let me tell you about my plumbing issue this weekend. So we've had a kids' bathrooms had a leak, hot water leak coming out of the faucet of the tub, which is not unusual. House was built in the late 70s. So we go, and I know this because my dad built his house in the late 70s. Alias, daggone it. This is pre-tip you speak of. You better not do that. You better not be ignoring that. You better be looking at those. Look, you know it, and I know it. DOT isn't looking for the clean trucks. DOT is looking for the trucks that look ate up. But if you've got a headlight out, if you've got a blinker out, if you've got any type of light out, they're going to nail you every time. Because you're an easy ticket. And some DOT people are cool. Some of those DOT men out there are cool. And some of them want to just rake you over the coals. Oh, here's another thing, Emmanuel. Get your hazmat endorsement. Get your hazmat endorsement. That's a real good addition to your portfolio as a driver. Makes you way versatile, and it'll open you up to some. I don't know what the going rates are for owner operators, but I'm assuming hazmat loads will bring in more. Yeah. Well, they do, and I know this more from dealing with the FRA than dealing with the DOT. Some of them are genuinely out there to help you and help people, but some of them know the score, right? They know that this is a living for some folks, and they don't want to bother the guys who are doing the right thing. They want to get the guys off, and you know it. And I know Alias, I know you know it. After 20 years, there are people driving trucks, and there are trucks out there, and there are trailers out there that have no business being on the road. They are a hazard to humanity every time they roll onto that highway. Every time they roll onto the highway. Reds are losing, guys. And it's bad. We started off so well. Oh, well. It's not going to be a fun season there, but it's a fun team. Cincinnati's a fun team to watch this year. Anyway, back to me. So we got this leak. So this weekend, me and the father-in-law, we get in the tub. We get in the tub. I'm in the tub. He's helping me with the tools. I got the tools set up. All right, take the knobs off. I know what it probably is. Start taking the handles off. Take the screws off the handles. Take the screw off the handle. It's a hot water side, but I'm going to look at the cold water side too, because you might as well. And back up. The reason I know this is old, my dad built the house I grew up in that he still lives in back in the late 70s. And the kit that he had in the bathroom that he built that me and my brother used for the kids' bathroom when I was growing up is the same kit in my kids' bathroom. It's just a different color. Ours was like a tan tile, tan tub, tan toilet. Theirs is blue. Blue toilet, blue tub, white tile. And so I know it's old. I know it's old. So I start unscrewing it. Knobs won't come off. They're frozen on there. Wife's out at the bank, running errands, and so I call her. I go, "Hey, stop by Ace, get me a handle puller, a knob puller." And Figs, you should go get your CDL. Go get your CDL. Go be a truck driver, Figs. You can't be any worse than some of the folks on there. Now, you might not be as good as Alias or Manual. I don't know. You won't know until you try. Anyway, so she brings back the handle pullers. Pull the hot water one, squeeze a little bit, pops right off. Okay, good. Right, start taking everything off. Start working on the cold one. This thing is awful. It's hard. And finally, I hear something just kind of, something squeaky. Something. It's the something's coming out, right? It's grinding against something. And I think it's the plastic in the handle, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to replace the handle anyway. Finally, it pops off. So I pull them off. So I see the stems, both the stems. Start taking them off. I already know I'm going back to the hardware store because there's other parts that I need to get, but I don't know what style I have yet or anything, but I got to find out. So I already know I got to find out before I can go back. So I take one off, take the first stem fitting off, and seals are deteriorated considerably on the hot water side. Definitely the cause of the leak. The seal had been so deteriorated that the brass seat that it was closing against had gotten to the point where it was metal on metal, and the seat had got a burr in it, a chip in it. Really, it's really a chip. So that has to be replaced, because if I put another rubber seal on there, it's just going to cut up against it again, and then I'm going to ruin another seal and be doing the same daggone thing. Anyway, so pull that off. Get on the cold side, pull that one off. Same story. The seal is deteriorated. Not enough to cause it to leak, but it's deteriorated enough that might as well do it now so I don't have to do it later, right? That's what makes sense. That's what goes through every red-blooded American man's head. Take care of the problem now while I'm working on another problem. Be proactive. Get ahead. Get ahead. So, go back to get the seals. Now that I know what size they are, I've got the stem with me from the hot water side. We get those. I'm looking. They've got brand new stems there. And I'm like, I should just replace the whole thing. Father-in-law's with me. He's like, no. The brass in good condition. You don't need to do that. The guy, the ace, trying to be helpful, Emmanuel. He's trying to be helpful. Says, no, it looks good. I was like, okay, fine. We'll just do this. I get a seat wrench as well, because you got to have a special wrench to get those brass seats out, because I know I'm already coming back. So I get there, put the seat wrench in, spins. The brass has become so deteriorated, I barely get that thing out. I have to really jam it in there, get it to bite on some brass that still is any good, and spin that seat out. Go into the cold side, easier time. But the seat on the cold side is also damaged interior, so that's gonna have to get replaced as well. So I pull them out, take them to Ace. Ace doesn't know where they are. They don't have any. They don't have any seats specifically like the ones I have, but I have to have them exactly the same because they have to thread the same way. They have to be the same distance. Everything's got to be the same. So they said, well, you're probably going to have to go to Ferguson to get these. There's probably an old style, which I know it's an old style. Ferguson is if you guys don't know, is a plumber's supply store, whatever. They ain't open on Saturdays. And so I'm like, okay, well, the water's turned off, and I'm not doing this for the whole weekend. So I decide I'm going to stop by Lowe's, which I normally go to Lowe's. Lowe's got a great military discount. Ace does not have the military discount. Never forget, Ace. Never forget. Like Dresden said, it's like 1,000 9/11s. Never forgetty. So I go through there. I can't find any seats, so I start looking for the stems. They sell a stem kit with the seat. I should have just bought that. Of course, they didn't have that at Ace. They had it at Lowe's. And I would have just bought it then. But I didn't know. Anyway, so I get those. Figure, well, I'm putting new ones in now. Screw the hot water side in. Everything goes together pretty well. Put the pipe dope on. Put that thing in. Go to put the seat in on the cold water side. It's tightening. But not a whole lot. It's not really tightening. And then it tightens just a fraction and then spins. Oh no! Because if it's spinning, that means the pipe that it's spinning into is stripped. And I look, I've got about that much room to work with. There is no trouble door on this, in this plumbing, in this bathroom. It is all the pipes are against an exterior wall. Imagine my frustration. It's considerable. It's considerable frustration. And shark bites are the best, though. Love shark bites. So I tighten it up. I get it to that one point before it spins again. And then I put the rest of the thread in. Turn the water back on, turn the well pump on, turn the water back on. Now I've got a cold water leak. If I had just left the cold side alone, I would not be telling you this story today. It would have been fine. So my idea now, before I call a plumber, before I destroy all the tile in that bathroom, because I'm not in a position to do a bathroom renovation. Is I got some Loctite, some water Loctite, not water Loctite, sorry. Water Weld by JB Weld. Got some JB Weld for water. For brass, specifically for marine usage, for plumbing usage or whatnot. I'm going to put the JB Weld on the seat, and then I'm going to screw it in. And then hopefully that will help seal the deal. And that way I won't have the problem anymore. And when that breaks, I'm renovating the bathroom again. Or I'm going to renovate the bathroom. That'll be when we replace it. And we'll replace it all at that point. Guys, it's so frustrating. Unbelievably frustrating. And I don't know what to do about a trouble door unless I put one in I would have to put one in the ceiling underneath. I don't know how to do that right now. That's such a headache. I can't imagine. Home run. Yeah, good. We're still going to lose. But hopefully I can take care of that. Yeah. Figs, I'm just JK. I hate driving. You better start learning to love it, Fig. Go be a truck driver. Go be a truck driver. You see America. I know the Ace is the place at the Helpful Hardware store. They're all right. The selection stinks. There's not a whole lot there. You can get some things you need, but if Lowe's and Home Depot, whoo, Fix, no, Fix, no. Go see America. Alias, duct tape and white out bubble gum and prayer, and you should be fine. Well, I'll definitely be praying because the other idea is to say bad things. And I shouldn't be doing that in my kid's bathroom. Porcupine said $20 for the check valves, but no fuss installation. Installing on next Tuesday. Dude, that's cheap. That's great. And always always have a shutoff valve. I wish I had them here. If I had a trouble door, this would not be an issue either. Because I would have just fixed it right then. If I had a trouble door, I would have already just pulled it out from the other side. I'm so frustrated. I'm so irritated. I am. And I don't know. I don't know what the real solution for that is. There should be a long-term solution for any type of plumbing issue that goes on with that tub. Figs. I already make so many mistakes driving in my new city. Well, look, just think about it. This is more practice. Shave your beard, Moses. It's going to happen. I'm doing it for a specific reason. And those reasons will be known to everybody in due time. But I look awful. What about a Dumbledore? Get out of here, Alias. You're not gonna spread your witchcraft here. Awful. Dumbledore. It's like I know it sounds like a Dumbledore. All right. Let's get into tonight's reading. All right. So, First Chronicles, chapter 20. We are rehashing basically the life and times of the king of Israel, King David, the great king, right? The man who was after God's own heart. A man we love to talk about, especially when he was in his youth, because he just had a love and a faith about him for God. And that has continued at this point for the most part. Up until tonight, we're going to see him make a big mistake. I don't know if it's actually going to talk about Bathsheba, because I think if we go into 2 Samuel, David and Bathsheba happens in chapter 11 of 2 Samuel. And then in chapter 24, much later, it talks about David's census. But it kind of happens after chapter 23, which is the last words of David and David's song of praise. They do it on the back end, which is weird. So if we go into And it's almost going to go exactly the same. The same instance happens. It almost happens word for word at the beginning. We'll get there when we get there, though. Let's go with First Chronicles. First Chronicles chapter 20. The capture of Rabbah. In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, Joab led out the armed forces. It was a time of lovemaking. It was a time of rebirth, rejuvenation, and battle. He laid waste the land of the Ammonites and went to Rabbah and besieged it. But David remained in Jerusalem. Joab attacked Rabbah and left it in ruins. David took the crown from the head of their king. Its weight was found to be a talent of gold. That is about 75 pounds is how much that crown weighed. How obnoxiously heavy is that? The Chad crown of Rabbah versus the virgin tiara. Its weight was found to be a talent of gold, and it was set with precious stones. So, on top of the 75 pounds of gold, you have all the stones that were the gemstones that were inlaid in it. And it was placed on David's head, who immediately went, "Ugh." He took a great quantity of plunder from the city and brought out the people who were there, consigning them to labor with saws and with iron picks and axes. Some might say hard labor, some might say slave labor. It's up to your perspective. David did this to all the Ammonite towns. Then David and his entire army returned to Jerusalem. So at some point, after Joab leaves Rabbah in ruins, David takes the crown. He shows up and takes the crown from the head of their king. Doesn't say whether he's alive or not. Oh, hold up. There's an annotation here. David took the crown from the head of their king, or of Milcom, that is Molech. I wonder if that means they took it off an idol. Don't know. War with the Philistines. In the course of time, war broke out with the Philistines at Gezer, as one does. At that time, Sibbechai, the Hushathite, killed Sippai, one of the descendants of the Rephites, and the Philistines were subjugated. In another battle with the Philistines, Elchanan, son of Jair, killed Lami, the brother of Goliath the Gittite, who had a spear with a shaft like a weaver's rod. I don't know if they're talking about Lami or Goliath, who had the spear, the shaft, like with the shaft of the weaver's rod. I know Goliath had a considerably heavy spear, but I don't know if they're referring to that spear or if they're talking about Lami's spear. In still another battle, which took place at Gath, there was a huge man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all for those who are counting. He also was descended from Rapha. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan, son of Shemaiah, David's brother, killed him. These were the descendants of Rapha and Gath, and they fell at the hands of David and his men. This is referring to this is referring to the Rephites. There are a lot of folks out there, including friend of the show, Eric Rollon, who feel very strongly that these are descendants of the Nephilim, like Goliath, abnormally large folks, great giants, as referred to. There's a lot of discussion and argument. To me, we'll find out in due time when revealed to us at the end of our lives. And God, I'm assuming, will let us know. Maybe we'll know. Maybe we won't care. But this dude's big. Regardless of anything else, this dude, just like Goliath, is big. But he's still dead. Emmanuel, about the crown. Damn, I didn't know there was a I didn't know there was a workout for your neck. Yeah. Your balance. This is like that's like a wheel. That's heavier. What is the size of a truck? What is the weight on a truck wheel? Is it over 100? I mean, I've picked them up before. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't think that they were be 100. Bud's wheels on some of those old trailers, those old Bud systems. I believe that. Those are under over 100. Super single wheels, probably over 100. But a regular wheel, you'd put a 11R 22.5 on. I mean, I was gonna say it was probably around 75 pounds or feels. I need to know this now. Whew. Steer tires 133 pounds. It says that I believe the tire. Where's that mounted? That's just the wheel not included. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Steel on. Let's do steel. Let's do. Here. How much does a semi truck rim weigh? 11 types compared. Here we go. Here we go. Got it. I'm so good at this, guys. So good at this game. Gross. This stupid stuff wants cookies. Mm. How much does a semi truck rim weigh? 11 types. Each has different sizes, but they fit into 22.5 by 14 dimensions, primarily for semi trucks. Here we go. Here's the short answer. Semi truck aluminum rims weigh between 30 to 64 pounds, whilst semi truck steel rims weigh between 54 to 153. That's not an answer. Here we go. Hub pilot wheel, 10 handle hole, very standard. Um, Very standard steer wheel, 87 pounds. Stud pilot two hand hold, 78 pounds. Direct bolt, 75 pounds. So there you go. To my truck drivers out there, that's basically the size of that's basically the weight of that crown. Better kill me. You want to know the faith in God? That's right there. I'll put that on my head. God will protect me. Texan Italian, welcome to the chat, sir. So there you go. David counts the fighting men. And here we go. Here's the meat of what we're going to get into tonight. Satan rose up against Israel. Satan rose up. You don't hear. Is this the first time we really hear Satan mentioned by name? Aha! The first use of the name Satan is found in 1 Chronicles 21:1. Chronologically, this is preceded by Job, which was written much earlier, which we haven't gotten to yet. Satan is found throughout Job 1 through 2 and literally means adversary in Hebrew. The etymology of the name is discussed briefly by Justin Martyr, an early church father around 156. He says, or he meant the devil by the lion roaring against him, whom Moses calls the serpent. But in Job and Zechariah, he is called the devil, and by Jesus is addressed as Satan, showing that a compounded name was acquired by him from the deeds which he performed. For Sata in the Jewish and Syrian tongue means apostate, and Nas is the word from which he is called by interpretation the serpent, according to the interpretation of the Hebrew term, from both of which there arises the single word Satanas. Another name appears in the Old Testament in the King James Version. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? So this is our first real, we see them mentioned by name. It's referred to in Genesis as the serpent. But this is the first time. This is what spoke out to me because we haven't really talked about Satan at all in the Bible in our read-throughs. So there you go. That's going to make this whole thing a little bit different. I guess that changes the whole perspective and our confusion, somewhat confusion, while we were going through Samuel on why this happened. Why what happened. Right? I've been reading, I'm almost finished Paradise Lost, and I will be reading Paradise Reclaimed soon. It's a tough read. It's a tough read just because it's got that King James style writing, and it's King James style writing in the format of Homer's Iliad, heroic poetry or whatever. But very fun information. One of the things I'm going to really want to do once we get through the whole Bible is go through and talk about the different angels and demons that we have that are discussed within our faith, and what the story is, what the theories are behind them. And I might actually get Eric to really help me out, Eric Roland to help me out with that. I might get a bunch of folks to help me out with that. So here we go. Chapter 21, 1 Chronicles. Satan rose up against Israel and incited David to take a census of Israel. So David said to Joab and the commanders of the troops, go and count the Israelites from Beersheba to Dan. Then report back to me so that I may know how many there are. So does that mean that David was doing this in response to something Satan did to counteract him? Or what it sounds like from what I've gathered from this, my interpretation here is Satan has tempted, manipulated, and done that done what he's needed to do to get David off course. Go and count the Israelites from Beersheba to Dan, then report back to me so that I may know how many there are. But Joab replied, may the Lord multiply his troops 100 times over. My lord, the king, are they not all my lord's subjects? Why does my lord want to do this? Why should he bring guilt on Israel? The king's word, however, overruled Joab, so Joab left and went throughout Israel and then came back to Jerusalem. Joab reported the number of fighting men to David. In all Israel, there were 1,100,000 men who could handle a sword. Woo-wee! That's quite the fighting force, including 470,000 in Judah. But Joab did not include Levi and Benjamin in the numbering because the king's command was repulsive to him. This command was also evil in the sight of God, so he punished Israel. Now we know that Satan was the origin of this. Now that we've read 1 Chronicles 21. But why such a big deal? Why was Doas? Let's go look at some of what we've got here. Why was Joab concerned about taking a census? This is one of the few times, maybe the only time, David does something wrong and Joab is like, maybe we shouldn't do this. Usually it's Joab doing something wrong after David asked him not to, or doing something deceitfully to get. Joab's like, why are we doing this? Anyway, so I've read many commentaries on 2 Samuel 24:3 that debate several reasons why the census was sinful, but none of them address Joab's reasoning for asking. Oh, hang on. Let's back up. This isn't the answer this isn't the question we want. Here we go. Got questions, which is a great resource, guys. Got questions is generally pretty dependable. 2 Samuel 24:1 says, again, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he incited David against them, saying, go and take a census of Israel and Judah. The parallel account of the incident surrounding the census, however, reveals it was Satan who incited David to take the census. Satan rose up against Israel and incited David to take a census of Israel. 1 Chronicles 21:1. Yes, here we go. This discrepancy is often explained by the understanding that in order to achieve his purposes, sometimes God sovereignly permits Satan to act. We'll learn more about this in Job. God can use Satan in various ways, with the result being the refining, disciplining, and purification of disobedient believers. How's it going, Ernath? It's a lot of small talk, so we just really got into the meat of things. It's talking about the census, David's census that he gets spanked over. All of Israel, actually. Such might have been the case with David. God allowed Satan to tempt him, and David sinned, revealing his pride, and then God dealt with David accordingly. Interesting take here. There are other considerations considering the passages relating to David's sinful census. Here is 2 Samuel 24:1 in 4 translations. All right, so we're going to see the New International Version, the NIV, like we read it, the English Standard Version, ESV, the King James Version, and the NASB. What is the NASB? I just can't think of the New American Standard Bible. That's what it is. The New American Standard Bible. I just realized that Nernath says he's catching up, so he's not going to hear what I say. So here are the 4 translation. Before that, Satan is always looking for a weak point in any person, especially those who are righteous to him. Yes. I don't know if that it's he targets more often or if you just become more aware of it the more mature you get in your faith. I don't know. It certainly feels like it happens more often, but that might be a bias. Heck on it. So let's go through the 4 translations. Again, the Niv says, again, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he incited David against them. The English Standard, again, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he incited David against them. The King James, and again, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he moved David against them. New American Standard, now again, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and it incited David against them. Note that the New American Standard Bible says it, the anger of the Lord, is what caused David to take the census. The other translations say he, the Lord, did the inciting. The reason for the differences in translation is that in the original language, there is no subject for the verb incited. The fact is, we aren't told who exactly moved David to take the census. To translate the verse literally, we would say, there was who moved David against them, or for one moved David against them. The translations above have taken this to mean that it was either God or his anger that caused David to take the census, but there are other options. 1. The unstated thing that moved David to conduct the census could have been David's own evil imagination. 2. The one who moved David could be Satan, as 1 Chronicles 21 says. That's what we're covering right now. The, quote, adversary, the meaning of the word Satan, mentioned in 1 Chronicles could be someone other than the devil. It could have been an unnamed counselor to David who prompted him into a foolish or sinful action. All right, my first impressions, if we're looking at Chronicles and Samuel, talking about the same thing, I like number 2 to be the most correct because you're comparing, because it's getting a little bit more specific. It specifically names Satan. One of the things that Chronicles and Kings does very well is name people. I don't think that such a important point in the historical accounting would have left out the name or said or it would have said an unknown person. But maybe we're missing something in translation. Goes on, as to why God was angry at David in those times, a man only had the right to count or number what belonged to him. Israel did not belong to David. I'm sorry, let me reread this. In those times, a man only had the right to count or number what belonged to him. Israel did not belong to David. Israel belonged to God. In Exodus 30:12, God told Moses, when you take a census of the Israelites to count them, each one must pay the Lord a ransom for his life at the time he is counted. Then no plague will come on them when you number them. It was up to God to command a census, and if David counted, he should only have done it at God's command, receiving a ransom to atone for the counting. This is why God was angry again with Israel, and is also why David was conscience stricken after he counted Israel. David knew it was wrong and begged God to take away the guilt of his sin, which we remember. God gave David a choice of 3 punishments for his sin. Well, we'll get into that later. We'll come back to this. Let's keep reading. This command, we'll pick up right where we left off. This command was also evil in the sight of God, so he punished Israel. Then in verse 8, Then David said to God, I have sinned greatly by doing this. Now, I beg you, take away the guilt of your servant. I have done a very foolish thing. This is something that we don't see from Saul that we see from David. Something that is a great example for us as people walking on the faith is humility and repentance. David recognizes what he did was wrong and asks God for forgiveness. Admits what he did was a failing. I go through it. Like one of my favorite lines, and I use it today from Prospero Burns. It's a Warhammer novel about the Space Wolves attacking the Thousand Suns from the perspective of the Space Wolves. It's one of my favorite 40K novels. One of the things that they say of the Space Wolves is, I recognize my failing and will be sure to correct it. I will say that from time to time when I realize I've done something that maybe was not correct. Emmanuel said, oh, wait, I've already read that one. He says, yeah, it makes sense. It's like saying, hey, I know you're out, God, but I'm going to count it as, I know you're out, God, but I'm going to count it as mine. It's a big slap in the face. It's a reminder that the real king of Israel is still God. Right? They have a king because they asked for it, but that doesn't mean they belong to the king. The Israelites, especially at this point, are God's chosen tribes. It's God's chosen people. You don't get to say you belong to somebody. You don't. A king doesn't get to come in and just assume that. The Lord said to Gad, David's seer, go and tell David, this is what the Lord says. I am giving you 3 options. Choose one of them for me to carry out against you. So Gad went to David and said to him, this is what the Lord says. Take your choice. 3 years of famine, 3 months of being swept away before your enemies with their swords overtaking you, or 3 days of the sword of the Lord, days of plague in the land, with the angel of the Lord ravaging every part of Israel. Now then, decide how I should answer the one who sent me. David said to Gad, I am in deep distress. Let me fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is very great, but do not let me fall into human hands. I think we talked about this before. 3 years of famine is a long time. Being killed by the enemy is being driven out by men. 3 days of sword against with the Lord bearing against you has the potential to be the most devastating. But what does David say? Let me fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is very great. You can get beat up by a kid, right? You can get it beat up by, if you were, or let's say you were a kid. You're a kid. You get in a playground fight. You get in a playground fight and another kid beats you up. Your dad can do more damage to you than that other kid can. But he won't if he spanks you. A loving father would not do that. Just to put, that's my putting this into perspective part. David's wisdom here. And let's see how this goes. Because this could easily work against you depending on how angry God is. So the Lord sent a plague on Israel, and 70,000 men of Israel fell dead. And God sent an angel to destroy Jerusalem. But as the angel was doing so, the Lord saw it and relented concerning the disaster, and said to the angel who was destroying the people, "Enough! Withdraw your hand." The angel of the Lord was then standing at the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. David looked up and saw the angel of the Lord standing between heaven and earth with a drawn sword in his hand extended over Jerusalem. Then David and the elders, clothed in sackcloth, fell face down. So they know what's going on, right? And they are taking their L appropriately. David said to God, "Was it not I who ordered the fighting men to be counted? I, the shepherd, have sinned and done wrong. These are but sheep. What have they done? Lord my God, let your hand fall on me and my family. But do not let this plague remain on your people." Of course, he'd already relented. Interesting here, because we talk about how there are angels, and there are angels of the Lord, and then there is the angel of the Lord, who many believe the angel of the Lord is Christ, is the Messiah, or Messiah, as he was referred to, as I know he is referred to in Paradise Lost now. This is it. So, and God sent an angel to destroy Jerusalem. And then later on, it says the angel of the Lord was then standing. I don't know if it means the angel of the Lord or if it's just an angel, and then it just makes more sense grammatically to say the angel of the Lord. Or maybe he said the angel. I don't know. This feels like a very in my interpretation, my humble, flawed in reading of this, that I would think that this would be another angel. This would not be Christ, because we often view Christ as the great Redeemer, the great. He is our advocate. He is the one who shows. He is the most merciful. And this seems really violent. But again, I could be wrong. He could just be doing this because this is the will, and he knows it needs to be done. So, draw your own conclusions. Pray on it if it's important to you. But I like David's responses. David's response to his own sin. We compare him with Saul. David makes the right decisions when he screws up. Saul generally does not. And where David tries to change his direction when he is going in the wrong direction, Saul tends to double down on it. Again, Saul is a sad, tragic, and cautionary tale, because so many of us could fall into that trap. Most of us, I think, would. Maybe we are better. Maybe we would have done better. I don't know. It's difficult to say. Power does weird things to people. And the ego is an enemy all of its own. Then the angel of the Lord ordered Gad to tell David to go up and build an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. So David went up in obedience to the word that Gad had spoken in the name of the Lord. While Araunah was threshing wheat, he turned and saw the angel. His 4 sons who were with him hid themselves. Then David approached, and when Araunah looked and saw him, he left the threshing floor and bowed down before David with his face to the ground. David said to him, "Let me have the site of your threshing floor so I can build an altar to the Lord, that the plague on the people may be stopped. Sell it to me at the full price." Araunah said to David, "Take it. Let my lord the king do whatever pleases him. Look, I will give the oxen for the burnt offerings, the threshing sledges for the wood, and the wheat for the grain offering. I will give all of this. Here we go. More David, more base David. But King David replied to Araunah, no, I insist on paying the full price. I will not take for the Lord what is yours, or sacrifice a burnt offering that costs me nothing. So David paid Araunah 600 shekels of gold for the site. David built an altar to the Lord there and sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. He called on the Lord, and the Lord answered him with fire from heaven on the altar of burnt offering. Damn. Then the Lord spoke to the angel, and he put his sword back into its sheath. I mean, the whole time he's just carrying it around. That's got to be ridiculously intimidating, right? This might be a little figurative. At that time, when David saw that the Lord had answered him on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite, he offered sacrifices there. The tabernacle of the Lord, which Moses had made in the wilderness, and the altar of burnt offering were at that time on the high place at Gibeon. But David could not go before it to inquire of God, because he was afraid of the sword of the angel of the Lord. Where David offered the stuff for free in good faith, right? Araunah did nothing wrong, really didn't do anything knowingly wrong. His king asked for something. He knows it's important. No, don't pay me anything. You can have it. But David wisely says, if you give it to me for nothing, what sacrifices is this from me? Pay me. I will pay the full price. Pay what the fair full price is. And there you go. It makes it more clean, right? Makes it more clean. All right, so let's go back. God gave David a choice of 3 punishments for his sins. David chose the third. As for why God punished the whole nation for the sin of the king, that is exactly the question David asks in 2 Samuel 24:17 and later on in chapter 21 that we're reading tonight. Why, when he was the one who had sinned, did the people have to suffer? He even requested that God's hand be against him and his family only, and that God would spare the people. But as with the account of Job, God chose not to give a reason for his actions. Perhaps it was because of Israel's multiplied sins and rebelling against God throughout the centuries. Like, look, I don't really need a reason at this point. As we know from reading Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel. We'll stop there because 1st and 2nd Kings were after this. Perhaps it was a lesson to the people and to us as well that the people suffer when their leaders go astray. This is where I actually think land here. Lesson to the people that we asked for a king, right? The people demanded a king. It seemed like they demanded a king of the Lord. Even when they have the best of their kings, they are not inoculated from the mistake their kings make. And it might be something like this, where they really didn't have any part in the decision. Or maybe it will be other things, like when they fall into worshiping false gods and idols and other demons. We are culpable. We are responsible for the fact that we abandoned God as our sole king. Actions has consequences, guys. The reality is that God didn't justify his actions with a reason, nor does he have to, which is at the end of the day, the bottom line. That's true. He doesn't justify his actions with a reason, nor does he have to. He doesn't. Oftentimes he will when he's making a point, though. But I think the point is pretty clear here. Of the three choices presented to David, the first two would have involved some level of dependency upon the mercy of man. The welfare, of course, would be as severe as the enemy wanted it to be. The warfare, of course, would be as severe as the enemy wanted it to be. The famine would require Israel to seek food from other nations, relying on the pity of their neighbors instead of relying on the mercy of any human. David chose to rely on the mercy of God. The pestilence was, after all, the most direct form of punishment from God, and in the plague, they could only look to God for relief. Want to see the real. This isn't just wisdom. This is what we see from God. I'm sorry. What we see from David here is why he is so loved by God. Not to say that God loves us, doesn't love us. But David's actions are almost uniquely born of respect, honor, love, and faith. He makes this choice. I know God won't kill us all. I know God is who I depend on. God is our Father. He doesn't make this immediately. He has to take time to choose. Welcome, Nico. Glad to have you here. Emmanuel says it just goes to show even the best of people, we can be broken, impervious. Yes, David's a perfect example of this. Solomon, great example of this. A psalmist tells us, as for God, his way is perfect. If God's ways are perfect, then we can trust that whatever he does and whatever he allows is also perfect. Our responsibility to God is to obey him, to trust him, and to submit to his will, whether we understand it or not. As we see in 2 Samuel 24:16 and tonight in Chronicles, God was grieved because of the things that were happening to his people, and he called off the punishment. Even in his rebuke, God still shows his love and mercy, as a good father would. But I want to go more. I want to see if I can find more into the. If we can find a. Oh, never mind. Never mind. We answered that question. All right. And we don't really know, and maybe somebody else who is smarter than me has answers, what it was that Satan did to prompt David to take a census. But sometimes the origins of the sin, the motivating factors for the sin, are not important. One could argue it's never important. You still sinned. But we're getting a lesson out of this. It's an important one. Not to count what is the Lord's is ours. That the Lord is ultimately who we need to depend on. That we are broken people, and that the sins of our leaders can cause us to suffer greatly, even at the Lord's hands. How much of that still continues after The new covenant is established with Christ. Up for interpretation, I guess. But there is only one truth, and that truth is what is. And we might be getting it wrong. Maybe we're getting it right. But the best way to arm yourself for the best case, for your best chance at getting it right is to look to Scripture and be obedient. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap things up for tonight. Friday is not going to be open topic. Friday is going to be Friday. I'm going to talk about Good Friday because that's what it is, right? A very significant point in our history as Christians. And I'm going to take a specific topic and I'm going to expand upon it. Kind of want to do it in a sermon style, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it all anchors out. But it won't be open topic. It's going to be Good Friday. Great Friday. Salvation Friday. But yeah. Manuel says, I think Satan had influenced David as either a confident or maybe an intrusive thoughts because remember, the great enemy comes as a friend, not as an enemy slowly to corrupt. Yes, he comes as different things, and we can go all the way to the beginning. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? You will certainly not die, the serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. Satan uses bad counsel, but couched in a way that makes sense. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. So there you go. Anyway. All right. So to everybody, Nernath and Nico, hope you do a good job. Hope you all catch up. If you like the program, guys and gals, anyone, if you like the program, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe, share. I don't need you subscribing on my locals. Join the locals so you can get into the Discord. I don't need you subscribing. I don't need any money. That's not what I want. I'm not looking for donations. If you want to help the stream, share it. Get the word out. That's what I'm going to say every night we're on here. Share it and get the word out. You do more for me. You do more for God. You do more for everything if you just get the word out. Share it with people you think might enjoy it. Share it on places with like-minded individuals. If you see it in a stream, whatever. That's where the help comes in. I'm doing my part. And there you go. So Nico, Nernath, Alias, Figs. Come on, Stuart, becoming a mega church preacher. Never going to happen. Number one, I don't have the right attitude to be a preacher. Two, mega church preachers aren't, well, you know my feelings on that. Figs. Guys, if y'all don't know this, Figs is like the original chat inhabitor. Right there. All right, so Figs, Nico, Nernath, Alias, Emmanuel. Congratulations again, Emmanuel. Text in Italian. Porcupine. Dresden. I think that's it. To all of you guys, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for participating. Thank you for making the show better than it is without you. I appreciate it every day. To those of you who are just listening, thank you for your ears. Thank you for your attention. I'm glad that I've given you something to pass the time, to indulge in, and hopefully get something out of it. For those of you who are catching it on the replay, thank you as well for the same things, and hopefully you are getting out of it what you need to. But for all of you guys, regardless, praying for you. Love you guys. Keep tuning in. Look forward to seeing you all every evening. Y'all have a great night, and God bless.